Chicago's College Connection. Just a little update here on the Cubs game, 4-zip, and Travis Wood is wheeling and dealing, as Todd likes to say.
Yeah, 9 strikeouts so far through 6 innings, only 3 hits and 3 walks. So good to see Travis Wood come back. Obviously, against the Phillies, was it Friday? Had a little bit of struggles, but he's looking great so far.
Let's talk to Evan Altman, the lead Cubs writer on Cubs Insider at ChicagoNow.com. Evan, is there a reason to start hashtagging Riz on me? Your article, Shift Happens, Anthony Rizzo is unimpressed, and he's been hitting the baseball like no other for the Cubs so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, of course, depending on who's looking at it, I know some people have taken us to task for, promoting his resurgence being only a few games into the season. But at the same time, it's, you watch the guy, and I think it bleeds into the team as a whole, but his approach at the plate looks different. They're pitching him away, and he's been taking what he's been given, and it just looks like a whole different batter at the plate this year.
Yeah, I think people who are saying it's only a couple games in the season, it's still huge that he's hitting this well, because obviously a slump in the early seasons could really derail the whole season. So that he's off to, him and Castro both, that they're off to this hot start, I think is huge. But looking at this Cubs rotation, Hamill obviously had a pretty decent outing last night. Samardzija looked great through 2 games. Obviously no run support for him though, and then Wood has looked great so far today. How good do you think this Cubs rotation can be through the whole season?
I think that's it's a great question, first of all, and Hamill coming in. I know that was a bit of a ridiculed signing initially, handed him $6 million, but 2-0 so far, again, young season, but Samardzija's looked great. Hasn't had the run support, but when you look at, I know it's easy to point the finger at Edwin Jackson and the money that he's making, but at the same time, considering that Jake Arrieta was supposedly going to be the 5th starter and hasn't even had a chance to pitch yet, I'd say they're actually holding up pretty well. And realistically, if we look at the kind of the approach, the blueprint that Theo and company have had, is that if Hamill continues like this, more than likely he'll be dealt at or just before the deadline. But they've honestly been coming together pretty well. And when you look at the last 3 games, I mean, if you can give 6 to 7 runs to anybody, they're going to look like a better pitcher.
Looking at the Cubs bullpen, we're stuck with the pitching. Again, we have Evan Altman of the Chicago Insider on ChicagoNow.com, the lead Cubs writer on that site. Jose Veras obviously wasn't the key to the Cubs bullpen, a 10.13 ERA for the Cubs. Is Pedro Strop the closer that people should be looking at right now? Strop on the season, he finished off last night's game, gave up 2 home runs, but a 5.79 ERA, 1 save, 6 strikeouts, and walks and hits per innings pitched, 1.29, so not bad for the youngster. Do you see this guy playing a key role in the bullpen and potentially closing out the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Veras continues to struggle and so far he's shown pretty much an inability to get the ball over the plate at all. It was plenty. If you're on Twitter, there were enough comparisons made between he and Marmol. Everybody was happy to see Carlos Marmol sent packing, and then what do? We replace him with another guy who looks pretty much identical. But
hey, Marble gave up a home run yesterday to the Washington Nationals, a grand slam to Worth. So he's continued this run.
Well, hey, it's I know it feels kind of good. Usually as a Cubs fan, you feel like you normally are used to these guys just stinking it up on the north side, and then they leave town and they pick it up somewhere else, and then it became a case of, oh well, boy, if we'd only held on to him, not realizing the guy was horrible when we had him. But I think Strop definitely has potential. I mean, his stuff is electric, and he was a closer for the Orioles, or was at least in line to be. So he kind of lost a little bit of the control there, and that's why they were able to pick him up along with Arrieta not too long ago when they traded Feldman. So I think that could very well be something that we're seeing very, very soon.
I think that that'd be a good move. Obviously, the Cubs have had their troubles finding a closer. Obviously, Kevin Gregg was fine last year, and the veteran came in and did what he had to do. But the Marmol disaster, and then Veras early on the disaster. So hopefully Strop can settle into his role. Looking at third base for this Cubs team, Mike Olt obviously had the homer last night. He's got 2 home runs and 4 RBIs on the year. But other than that, he hasn't done too much. So do you see some pressure mounting on him, maybe to not become that everyday third baseman, and maybe hurry? And once the development of some of these younger guys come, Olt kind of gets pushed out, or what do you see happening?
It's really tough to say right now after the spring that he had. He hit several home runs. He's looking good. I know the shoulder injury kind of set him back a little bit. So I still think not getting enough of the at-bats or not getting the same at-bats and being a younger guy as far as the team is concerned, not really being that everyday player, I don't think he feels that pressure as much right now. Now, whether we go on a run where because of the platoon situation, he gets a little bit more time to be more consistent and then starts to press, I think we'd see it because, he's going to hear the footsteps, obviously, not to go too far with it, but with Castro playing the way he is, a lot of people have thought, well, Javier Baez coming up, he's a shortstop. But if Castro doesn't get moved off short the way he's playing, well, the next logical position is you've got Baez and then Chris Bryant behind him coming up as third baseman. You've got Christian Villanueva a little bit further down. So this organization's stocked with third basemen. And so I do think that, if we look at a couple more weeks and that batting average is still dipping for Olt, I think he may start to press and he may start getting into some trouble.
Chris Bryant actually had a home run yesterday in A-ball or wherever he's at. So you're right, the Cubs have a lot of options, and we were talking about this earlier in the show with the White Sox and the Cubs. Obviously, with Avisail Garcia going down, the White Sox have Jordan Danks, Dayan Viciedo, and Alejandro De Aza. But the more options you have, the more competition it creates. And a great point from Tom, the more competition you have, the more competition you're creating, the better players can perform. So maybe Eichel will cherish this competition in the minor leagues and really start to play better here later in this season. But Evan, I'm 0 for 4, 0 for 3 this year. I've struck out 3 times, but since you have a great radio voice, I want to know if you can give me a play-by-play call of your favorite Cub for a home run.
Oh, there we go. So we're talking all-time or we're talking current?
We're talking all-time. We can go whatever year you want.
Oh, my goodness. Let's see. Well, my son's named after Ryan Sandberg, so I guess that's I don't really have much of a choice when we go in there. So you're looking. Oh boy, you're gonna put me on the spot here. I thought I was going to be able to answer some questions. So let's see how it goes. Suter rocks and fires. Sandberg waits. There it is. It's a swing. It is back. It's back. This one could be back. It could be gone. It is. The Cubs tie the game. That was awful.
Evan,
I actually am embarrassed for myself, and I didn't even have to listen to it.
Evan, that was very solid. I'm going to give you a 12 out of 10 just because it was on the spot.
I completely agree. We haven't been able to get anyone to do it, so the courage to do it.
Well, good. So I thought you just meant 0 for 3 that everybody sucked. So, good. There we go. So, wow. Okay, anyway.
Last question for you, Evan. You mentioned your son's named after Ryan Sandberg. Did you spell it the same way then?
Yes, absolutely.
Very
absolutely. Nice. Yeah, although that doesn't stop people from pronouncing it the wrong way.
Right.
But,
so is his nickname the Rhino, or what do you got lined up for him?
Yeah, absolutely. We call him Rhino, and we're seeing actually interestingly enough, he knows where it came from. We were watching the Phillies game the other day, and Sandberg came out, not the pitching change during which he got booed, but it was a subsequent game, and I said, "Hey, buddy, do you know who that is?" And he couldn't place it. I said, "That's Ryan Sandberg." And he looks. My son's 5, by the way. He looks and no, that's bad. That's bad. He's on the wrong team. So he understood. And I said something like, "You don't want to be conflicted. Try explaining to your son why he's named after the Phillies manager when you're a Cubs fan." So
maybe you should go to the Cubs organization, go to Theo yourself, and say, I named my son after Ryan Sandberg. He's complaining, so that means you need to get Ryan Sandberg to replace Rick Renneria as the new manager.
I'm sure, with the poll that I've got, I do have Theo's ear. I'll wait for a while, but I'm sure he'd listen to me. I'm sure they'd make that move.
You're an important guy, the Cubs insider on Chicago Now, the lead writer on that website. Evan, you are a great guest, and we hope to have you back on soon.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. That's Evan, the lead writer of the Cubs Insider on ChicagoNow.com. We're 1 for 4 now in the lineup, getting some guests trying to do a home run call.
We finally got one. Great. Obviously, Ryan Sandberg, great Cub, and I'm sure some fans are reminiscent of the good old days with Sandberg playing, wearing a Cubs uniform instead of a Phillies uniform, like Evan was talking about.
Right. Evan Altman. That's where you can find Evan Altman, the lead Cubs writer on the Cubs Insider on ChicagoNow.com. And as I mentioned, a great article published today about Anthony Rizzo. Riz on me. I think that's going to be trending after this show just because of how much Evan is appreciating the bat of Anthony Rizzo right now.
Yeah, he's obviously playing great. Quick update on the game. Schlitter, bearded Jesus, Cubs Jesus, if you will, just gave up a 2-run home run, so it's 4-2.
To who?
He gave it up to T. Snyder.
I was thinking it was going to be McCutchen. I've been complaining this whole show about a McCutchen. And Garrett Cole, 6 innings, 10 strikeouts. I like that number.
Yeah.
But Andrew McCutchen batting .219. If you're the Cubs, this is the exact time you want to run into Andrew McCutchen.
Yeah, obviously not up to his MVP form of last year. So the Cubs are taking advantage of that. I think Cubs pitching is definitely.
Let's continue on talking some Bulls. We jump back to Cubs when we had Evan Altman on. Let's go back to some Bulls and let's go to the NBA. A very surprising move by Frank Vogel last night when the Pacers were a half game back of the Miami Heat for the 1 seed. They jumped them. We'll tell you what that move was next here on the lineup on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection.